What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network NFL podcast. This is the AFC Way Too Early Win Totals edition. I am your host, Chris Raybon. I'll be joined in a second by my dude Stuckey, but I just want to let you know real quick, we need to do a shout out to Action's Happy Hour in Vegas. To any listeners out in Las Vegas next week for the NFL Draft, Action Network is hosting a pre-draft happy hour at Circus Stadium Swim in downtown Vegas next Wednesday, April 27th. We've got an open bar, surprise guests, and betting tips from some of your favorite action pros. Darren Ravel will be there, so it should be a really good time. The event, 21 plus, totally free, but it does require an RSVP. So if you're in Vegas next week, just check out the link in this episode description to RSVP. Stuckey, what's going on, man?
What's up, brother? Excited to continue talking NFL in the offseason. If you haven't checked out our NFC preview already, that's out there. We just recorded that. Now we can talk the AFC, which is loaded. So I'm excited to talk about the arms race in the AFC.
This is like, it's all about, reminds me of, I don't know how closely you follow NBA, but remember back in the day when the West was always just so much better than the East for like so long. It was just like LeBron and that was it in the East. And like, it kind of reminds me of that now with like a disparity between the conferences because, you know, you had players going like, you know, Devontae Adams, that really swings, I think, you know, things in the favor of the AFC. Russell Wilson, you know, big names, team change at positions that really affect, you know, your final point differential, just kind of changing conferences.
Yeah, so, if you listen to our previous podcast in the NFC, because I won't recommend any long shots in the NFC. But one of the reasons I said, because the NFC is so much more wide open, like look at the NFC East, maybe a long shot there comes out of the wild card, because you can get to the Super Bowl, then you can hedge, or just one football game. But I don't think that there's like 100-1 shot in the AFC that can, number one, get to the playoffs, and then two, go through the gauntlet and get to the Super Bowl. So yeah, this conference is loaded, but that's one of the other reasons why, if you're looking for a long shot, deep long shot, look at the NFC. Worst case scenario, can maybe hedge, but it's just still one football game you got to win. But the AFC, man, it's going to be fun all year.
Let's start right off in the AFC East, and you still have the Bills with 11.5 for their win total. That is tops in the AFC. So, you know, still projected as the favorite there. Obviously, just a brutal loss in the playoffs, but still a pretty strong team all around. Obviously, they lost some people in the front office, so we'll see how that works. And on the sideline, then you have the Dolphins. They get Tyreek Hill, so their win total just 9. So that's, you know, interesting. Patriots at 8.5. Jets bringing up the rear at 5.5. I'm curious I want to start with the Dolphins because I think they're the most interesting. You know, I believe you were pretty down on them last year.
Push their win total because they won like 8 games in a row to end the
beat
year.
The Patriots on the last day of the season too, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I'm really curious to your thoughts on the Dolphins. I know that you're not like a huge Tua believer, but you know, I liked Flores. I know that situation is unfortunate. So like, what do you make of this? Because the roster, you look at it on paper, and I mean, there are pieces there at some pretty important positions, but is there enough at quarterback? And should this total be higher or lower?
Yeah, I mean, the win total is 9, and last year was 9 juiced over, and I think they're much better this year. They're 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. They went 9-8 last year. I love what they did in the offseason. And look, I was not a fan of Tua because just as some of his accuracy issues throwing downfield. And you got to remember his rookie year, like he was hurt, and like I just think he needed more time. I think the potential's there. I still want to see some more, but they also have Teddy Bridgewater. Like you can't get better than that as a backup option if things aren't going right. So keep that in mind as well. Maybe even if there's an injury or just if you need him to step in. We've seen that in Miami before. So who knows how that's going to work out with Tua and like the Fitzpatrick thing, but we'll see. But I love some of the moves they made. I mean, you had Tyreek Hill, obviously massive downfield threat. You put him with Waddle. You had Ced Wilson as well. Most importantly, you know, you get Chase Edmonds in there too, who could do some things. Mostert, but most importantly, bringing in like Connor Williams and Armstead.
Armstead.
They needed guys on that offensive line. Going to get a little better, some of the young pieces, but they were very bad, and they had to get rid of their center is still a major issue, but hopefully they can address that in the draft. So yeah, I project. I was so low on the Dolphins last year. Love what they did this year. I project them at 9.1. So unfortunately, I don't see any value there. I think that if you're looking for one semi-long shot in the AFC, so like I said, I wouldn't go like 100-1. Dolphins around like 30-1, and all it will take is Tua making. I keep referring to the same thing with the Josh Allen leap. So if he makes that accuracy leap, and obviously having Hill is going to help, and most importantly, it wasn't all on Tua. He also had like 2 offensive coordinators. His offensive line was like the worst in the league. That doesn't help a young quarterback. He had a lot of hurt weapons, no running game. All that's improved now. So I think that the Dolphins are interesting from a long shot perspective. I don't see any value in their win total. But yeah, if Tua takes that leap and these pieces all fit together, there's definitely some upside with Miami.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people are going to look at, and this is probably why it's only at 9, but a lot of people, I know there's, when they're looking at win totals, they look at the, Pythagorean wins from the year before. Did they overachieve or underachieve? Well, they were 7.6 wins Pythagorean, and that's essentially calculated by extrapolating their point differential, and which was minus 32, and but they won 9 games. But the one thing I worry about with Miami is Flores, I think, really did, he was a net positive for them, because they overachieved on their Pythagorean wins every single year under Flores. They had 9 wins when their Pythagorean was at 7.6 last year, 10 wins versus 9.7 the year before, and 5 wins versus 3.9 the year before. So Flores might have been worth like an extra, like a little half win to a win. Yep. And now you have McDaniel, and granted, he's been in a good spot in San Francisco, but we just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty there. But I will also say, like, just looking at the roster, the left tackle is in the bag now with Armstead. You got 1 elite receiver and 1 very good receiver in Hill and Waddle. You have an above average pass catching tight end in Gesicki. The line, because you added Armstead and Connor Williams, you have 2 above average linemen at least. I still think it could get better on the right side. But then on defense, I mean, got Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Javon Holland. He was a rookie last year. The 4th highest graded safety of 92 qualifiers at PFF. Free safety. He'll be on the back end. So I think at all the impact positions, Agba, they have Wilkins and Agba on the line. I like it. I think it's really, it sounds cliche, but it's really just going to come down to Tua. Like, if Tua can kind of do what we thought he could always do, I think that I think this team could win double-digit games. But the reason I agree with you, long shot only, don't bet the win total. Miami only has 4 picks in the draft, and none in the top 100. They have 102, they have 125, they have 224 and 247. So, like, this is a team this is kind of what they are now. Like, what we see on paper is what they are. So no sense.
And only 8 home games, which matters for the win total, especially, when teams, Miami, you don't think of like their crowd as having home field advantage, but teams travel down for that humidity, or they're hot, warm, or the team having to travel to the cold. Like, so yeah, I think the win total is spot on, but you want to take a long shot, either plus 350 to win the division, or I think more interesting is like, let me just take a flyer on them to win the AFC or the Super Bowl. The bet is on Tua taking that next step. And then if he doesn't, you still have a guy who's proven he can win games in the NFL, and Teddy Bridgewater, who could come in, and who knows? Yeah.
I think division is fair just because of how highly rated the Bills are, more so than, you know what I mean? Like, I think the division is also in that conversation just because, like, the Bills have the win total like 1 win higher than anyone else in the AFC. Everyone just thinks they're going to run away with it. You get the Dolphins at plus 350. I don't mind sprinkling some of that on that at this point in the year. But yeah, I agree. I think backup quarterback, high floor situation.
Yeah, I would agree. I prefer the longer odds of a Super Bowl to the division as well. The Bills are interesting. I mean, look, the Bills were my only future last year. Sadly, we got ahead of the market, but there's just no value now. We had 15 to 1 before the season. And they ended up being arguably the best team in the NFL. Now they're at plus 650. They're Super Bowl favorites. I like some of the things they did in the offseason. You added, I love the signing of Crowder. Like that was just his contract too. But you had Von Miller. I didn't love that contract, but he might be able to help this year. Saffold, Tim Settle. I like some of the guys they added. O.J. Howard, Daquan Jones. They get rid of Harrison Phillips, Levi Wallace, Feliciano. Like some of the guys they get rid of I like too, like that they got rid of them. You're going to get Trey White back at corner. You do have some aging safeties, which I worry about, and then you lose Dable. How important is that? And where does Allen go? Does he improve? Does he regress a little bit? So, win total for the Bills is like between 11.5 and 12. It's juiced over 11.5. Last year was 11. I project them at, it's like implied 11.7. I project them at 11.8. Yeah. And I have no value on their futures, no value in the division, no value in the Super Bowl. Sadly, Bills fans, we were one squib kick away from probably winning the Super Bowl last year and cashing our future, but it didn't happen that way. And that's the beauty and the cruelty of NFL futures is it's one and done. So nothing on the Bills. Patriots what did they do in the offseason? I think that they got worse. Last year they went 10-7. Their win total was like over 9 juice last year. It's over 8.5 juice this year. I project them at right around 9-1, 9-2. Super Bowl, they're 40 to 1. Does Mac Jones take a step forward or does he take a step back? Little sophomore slump. I don't know. That roster still has holes now in the secondary. I'm not a buyer in the Patriots. I think they're priced about accurate, and the Jets stink. I mean, I said that I haven't lost a win total in the last 2. I have the Jets under every year. I'll have the Jets under again. I'm not a believer in Zach Wilson. Their defense is horrendous. Just god awful. Maybe their offensive line will be a little better, but they're not going to be able to get stops. This is a really bad team. The Dolphins, who I think are better. Patriots are probably neutral. The Bills are probably got a little bit better roster-wise. They're in a tough division, in a tough conference, and I don't believe in their quarterback. Their defense stinks. This roster has holes all over it. Under 5.5 for the Jets. Yes, please. I make it 4.4.
Yeah, the Jets. And again, I think this is the
25 to 1 to win the division.
Right. Yeah. No, thanks. This is the conference where you can, bet some of these teams, bad team unders, because like we said, like there's so many good teams or teams that have upside beyond even what they're priced at. I think the Jets under. I mean, even the Patriots. I mean, at first glance, you look at it, the win total is 8.5. You say, okay, Mac Jones year 2, but you look at their roster, and especially without J.C. Jackson, who was just otherworldly in terms of making their defense what it is and getting turnovers and just getting them off the field on third down. Now they don't have that. Jalen Mills is essentially their top corner. Yeah, they have some decent safeties, but it's a very average roster. I mean, even they add Parker on offense, they got Myers, but it's like, the tight ends are what they are. They paid, probably overpaid for them. And, the line is good, but it's just like a very average roster. And now you're in a conference that is above average collectively. So, I see more likely that I'm going to be betting. If I am betting on the Patriots at some point, I would be probably betting the under. The Jets, I agree, go under in this AFC. That's about that. And the Dolphins are that team that can, if anyone's going to challenge the Bills, take advantage of some injuries, it's going to be the Dolphins in this division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if maybe the Jets will win one game in the division, but I mean, try to find. They got to get to 6 wins to go over. I'll list their non-division games: at the Browns, at the Packers, at the Vikings, home against the Ravens, home against the Bengals. Bengals revenge game for that Mike White loss. Home against the Bears. All right, there's maybe 1. Home against the Lions. There's maybe 2. At Denver, at Pitt, at Seattle. Maybe, and then home against Jacksonville. So if they win all their winnable games, get them to 5. Including
tie
one.
Pittsburgh.
I'll give them 1 in the division. Yeah, a tie.
We'll be taking the Jets plus 9.5 against Pittsburgh, and like they'll tie and we'll win.
At Seattle, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I make it 4-4. I think they end up around 4 or 5 wins. I think the win total should probably be set at like 5. So, yeah, give me the Jets under. And yeah, I think Miami is the long shot. That if you want to take a shot, and it's all based on Tua.
One final thought on the Jets. I would actually recommend waiting till post draft to bet the Jets under, because they have 2 picks in the top 10, 4 picks in the top 40, 5 picks in the top 70, and 7 picks in the top 120. So they have 7 picks in the first 4 rounds.
So you can get some post draft hype there.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, their roster is bound to get better, but I just don't know, like, because like, listen, they're not going to change quarterbacks, right? So it's like, there's not going to be the draft is going to improve their roster and probably be worth, on the market, it should be worth a half a win, but it's not going to be anything that truly moves the needle.
Yeah.
And
they're going to get better. Just getting that under 6, like this team's not winning 7 games, right?
Right. So I would, I
would love to pay juice. I'd pay a lot of juice for under 6 instead of going under 5.
And you might get, that's what I'm saying. You might get it just based on, 4 picks in the top 40. It's hard, at least on paper, to fuck that up to the point where the market doesn't bump you up a half a win.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the AFC North. And the first thing I will mention is that the Cleveland Browns are most sportsbooks off the book, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield, for that matter, even if Watson can't play. So interesting situation there. But we have the Bengals at 10 wins after going to the Super Bowl. Your Ravens at 9.5. And Pittsburgh projected to have it would be the first losing season under Mike Tomlin, I believe. They are at 7.5. What are your thoughts here in the AFC North? The Browns I've seen are actually favored to win the division in the division odds. But
yeah, Browns plus 175. Bengals plus 200, Ravens plus 225. They're all right around 2-1, and then the Steelers are 8-1. Yeah, I mean, the biggest question is what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's going to play the full season. I wouldn't be shocked if he was suspended for half the season. Who knows what the hell's going to happen? I'm not a lawyer, but that's obviously massive. It's the difference between Deshaun Watson. Maybe there's probably going to be some rust early, but the difference between Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield is big. And I don't really, they still need some help at wide receiver and along the defensive line, but if they got Watson, it's one of the best teams in the AFC. So really hard to project with the Browns and what's going to happen with Watson, which makes this division pretty tough to project as well. Bengals, look, I mean, last year, fluky year as far as they got a division that just fell apart on them for them. The Browns, all their injuries. The Ravens were the unluckiest team in the NFL and one of the most unluckiest teams in the past 20 years when it came to injuries. We'll talk about them in a second. The team lost its entire backfield before the year started. Then it's offensive line. Then all 4 starting defensive backs. It just went on and on and on. Then Lamar Jackson's hurt. I mean, so the Bengals kind of got like a red carpet ride to get 10 wins and won the division. They went 10-7-1. And then they had things break right for them and got to the Super Bowl. And credit to them. They still have Joe Burrow. They still have those receivers. But here's what I thought I was going to be fading the Bengals, but I loved what they did as far as bolstering their offensive line, which is their biggest weakness, right? You bring in Kappa, Hurst, Karras. I just love what they did, because that was the one thing that I was going to hold them back if they didn't play in an awful division last year, and they addressed it. So, they still need a left guard. They still need help at linebacker and corner, but I like what they did along the offensive line. And last year they went 10-7-1. Their win total was 6.5. Their win total now is 10. I project them they're under 10 minus like 120. I project them at 10.0. So I'm not fading the Bengals, but we all know how the teams that have lost Super Bowl have not had a lot of success. The team for me here, number one, I'm going under with it. That Mitch Bortles is their quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. This team is a mess. Their secondary is a mess. Their quarterback situation's a mess. Their offense is a mess. The management's a mess. Last year, they benefited from the Ravens and the Browns having a down year. They are clearly the worst team in this division. I think it's going to be a long year for the Steelers. they're them and the Jets are my two favorite win totals in the AFC. I project them 6.5 wins for the Steelers with some uncertainty. Like I'm pricing in a probability of how many games Watson will play with that. Now, if Watson plays the full season, that gets even worse. But I think the long shot here is the Ravens win the Super Bowl. And if you listen to our podcast, our Super Bowl preview podcast, you could have found 30-1 and 40-1, which I got. Remember when you were like, well, is there any futures out there? And I said, no, don't usually recommend any, but that one's crazy. The Ravens last year, their win total, they went 8-9, and they were I can't even explain to you the amount of bad injury luck they had. You're talking their entire backfield. Yeah, you got to remember guys like Dobbins. They got all-pro left tackle. Their entire secondary went down. They were playing backups. Lamar Jackson got hurt. So just getting all those guys back and then having better injury luck on top of that, I think is huge. You know, you sign one of the best safeties in the NFL to go along with your corners coming back. I liked what I saw from some of the young receivers last year. You still need some help. I think get another corner, maybe a little help on the D-line and linebacker. But I think the defense is going to get a huge boost from a scheme change, right? That Martindale system, it played its role for a time. But how many times we talk about, and I talked about last year, the Ravens, this defense doesn't work anymore against the elite quarterback. You can't blitz Mahomes. You can't blitz Burrow, right? Like it's, and everyone kind of was on to the Ravens scheme. So I think they get a boost from that as well. And this is a team going into last year. It was who's the best team in the AFC, the Ravens or the Chiefs, right? That was the conversation. Well, the Ravens, all they did, they just had awful injury luck. That should change for the better. This is still one of the most well-run organizations in the NFL. They get a really easy schedule because of they finished in last place. It's huge. I was rooting against them in that last game of the year because of that. And their win total is 9-7. I project them at 10-5, lean over a little bit there. But I'd rather take Bonta. You found them 25-1, hit it. I think that they should get into the playoffs. The division's a crapshoot, and I don't know, like with Watson and with the Browns, Bengals, and Ravens, I think it can go either way. The toughest thing is like I don't want the AFC's loaded, so like there's gonna be a really good team that gets left out. But I trust the Ravens to get there. I trust them to have a bounce back year. A lot of regression coming their way. A lot of things I do like about them. This is the first time I've been doing an NFL podcast, most years with you, before doing a couple of years before then. This is the first time I've ever been able to recommend my Ravens as a future. Last time I bet them, they ended up winning the Super Bowl. I got really lucky. I bet them 40-1 before Flacco went on that lucky run. And that's what we'll need this year. You need a couple plays, get lucky, get in the playoffs. But I think that they'll be there in the end. I think there's value there. This is a team that going into last year was like, all right, you would think that they're being 10-1, 12-1 range. Now you're getting them 25-1 because of what happened last year. Trust in Harbaugh, trust in this organization. And I like them as a long shot here. I would lean over on the win total, but like just the division's so loaded, the uncertainty with Watson. I'm staying away from the division futures, staying away from win totals here, except for Steelers under, Ravens long shot. What are your thoughts?
I love the Ravens. I think the Ravens are the team to invest in this division. I agree. The Bengals got a lot, but I like what they did on their interior line. So the Bengals could be a powerhouse this year. But, right now the market's saying the Bengals aren't even the favorites to win the division. Baltimore is in third. I don't mind that at plus 225 because I think they have as good a shot as the Bengals and probably a better shot than the Browns. But I agree. Long shot wise, I mean, not only do we know the Ravens, can kind of get to that level. They've been there before, but we know that this team's issues last year were injuries and scheme. And then because of that, you mentioned it, they finished in last place. So last place schedule, also 9 picks in the first 4 rounds. And this is a team that generally drafts pretty well. You mentioned it, well-run organization. So
if you look at a lot of advanced metrics out there that measure like per draft pick,
right.
Value, they're number 1 over the past like 10, 15 years.
So this is a team that profiles as one of those teams that it's like, if I'm betting in April and I'm going to tie up money, this is one of the teams I do it with because number one, they could get better after the draft, the market. So it's like whether it's a AFC future, they're like 12 to 15-1, depending on where you're looking. Super Bowl, they're usually 22-25. I think you got them at 30. And even a division, anywhere from 2.5 to 2-1. I think those numbers are all going to get shorter post-draft. And we're probably going to be sitting here saying, whoa, did the Ravens, come up in the draft? Because they have so many picks and their picks are usually good and their picks are usually, smart, like in terms of filling holes that they need to on a roster. And so, and that, they could make a trade, who knows what they do with all these picks. So this is the type of team you bet on. And there's just not hype. That's the other thing. It's not like the Dolphins, as much as I think we like them, there's already hype on the Dolphins to a certain extent because of the splashy move they made. The Ravens, there's no hype. This is just a post-hype, high-quality football
it fits
team.
into everything we usually talk about the NFL, buying low and selling high. Like last year, it was not the right time to buy the Ravens. It was the right time to buy the Bills, right? Yeah. Bought the Bills. Now, basically, the Bills went to where the Ravens were, and the Ravens went to where the Bills were, even further. And it's just the ebbs and flows of the NFL. They should be in the mix in the AFC. I think they should be like 15-1. So I agree. Do you like the Steelers under? I mean, I hate Mitch Bortles, so I'm going to be lower on the Steelers than everybody.
I think on paper it makes sense. I don't know if I want to see the final roster. Like I want to see the draft. Like it could go down. I could lose a half a point if things don't go well. But I hate betting against Tomlin in like win total spots just because they've always found a way. So, but I agree. I mean, they should be the worst team in that division. I also want to see what happens with Watson for them because like that could be the difference right there. If they could play, Baker Mayfield or someone that's not Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson against Cleveland twice, that could be the difference right there between the 7 and the 8 or the 6 and the 7 or whatever it is. So,
yeah, it could even matter schedule wise. Like when do you play the Browns next year? Like do you play them early in the year or so that's something to watch too. Schedules should come out like first or second week of May, by the way.
But it is unfortunate that they're probably not going to get to play Baker because it's perfect for them. Yep. They just crush them. All right, let's go to AFC South and we got the Colts and Titans 9.5. We got the Jaguars at 6 and the Texans at 4.5. So this is like a carbon copy of what we had last year, if I'm not mistaken. Like the exact same win totals. Are you gonna tell me we have to bet the Colts again? Because I'm gonna be like, nope.
No, I think the Colts got worse.
Yes.
I'm not,
okay. There we go.
So, yeah, I think the Titans got worse. I think the Texans somehow got worse. I think the Jags got better.
Yeah.
So maybe I tried this last year. Maybe you take a shot with the Jags to win this division if things break right and Lawrence takes a big leap forward and you have like coaching bump. I show value on, believe it or not, I mean, the Texans win total is like 4 over 4 minus 120, minus 125, somewhere around there. I show value on the under. I project them at 3.6 wins. This team is horrifying, and they're in a division where I don't love, so I don't think I'll bet it because it's a really low number, but I would lean that way. The Jags, their win total is it's juiced over 6. I just couldn't get there, and I thought that they were a lot better, but the AFC's low. I mean, I'm only at like 5-1. I got to go back and look at my Jags because I liked what I did, and I bumped them a lot in the offseason, even assuming that there's gonna be a coaching and like year 2 Lawrence bump, but it's not like he was great last year. So I can't bet the Jags over. I don't show any value. I actually show value in the under. And then as far as the Colts and the Titans, I just don't love what they did in the offseason. I mean, if you love Matt Ryan, you just think that he was behind a bad offensive line and it was a disaster and he just needs to get to Reich, who I loved, and maybe you like the Colts, but the Titans, I project at like 9.3. Their win total is 9.5. The Colts, I project at right around 10. Their win total is like over 9.5 juice. So it's like 9.7, 9.8. A lot of that just because they're in a really bad division with some favorable schedule spots. But I won't be betting any win totals in here. Maybe I'll take a shot on the Jags to win the division. I lean Texans under, but I don't know if I'll go that low. So this division, I really just don't want to spend much time on. I think this is whoever wins this division, that's the only team that's getting in from this division, and they're probably going to end up with like 9 wins. Yeah,
that's what I was about to say. I actually like the Colts under 9.5. I mean, I think the defense solid, but they lost Eberflus. Obviously, Gilmore is a nice add for them.
Yeah,
on
but he's
defense.
over the hill. I don't even love
Yeah,
that
but it looks nice on paper, is I guess what I should say.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ngakoue. It looks nice on paper. He was 104th rated of 108 edge rushers last year by PFF.
Yeah.
So then now you're still in a situation.
Questions at offensive line. You still have
yeah.
a left tackle. Who's your left tackle?
Right. It's like, and I look at the offense. I love Michael Pittman as a football player, but right now your receivers are Paris Campbell and you Doolin. You lost Pascal, who's a good special teamer. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, same thing at this point in their respective careers. Like Matt Ryan's not moving a needle. So this is a very
Pittman would be like a star as
if
definitely
they
a 3,
threw.
but but I'm saying like if he was like a 3 or maybe a 2 on a team, but like
a 2, I think a 2.
1,
yeah.
But I'm saying if he was a 3 on a team, that's like Bengals quality. But 2,
right.
Awesome. 1, he's serviceable, but you need to the depth there is real bad.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And Ryan's not getting any younger and he's not getting any faster. And I don't think the offensive line is as, dominant as some people think. So, obviously you're going to have the running game is going to be there. The defense is going to be good and they're well coached. But
they did lose Eberflus though. So that's a worry. That's not for nothing.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I don't, this team could win the division. I think they're going to end up with like 9 or 10 wins. And I think that's like what the Titans are going to end up around. But I think that there's more downside than upside. So I don't mind the under bet.
Here's one. The Colts right now are minus 165 to make the playoffs, plus 135 not to. I would take the no because like you said, I think it's a 50-50 shot. Whoever wins the division, I still think the Titans are slightly better just because the Titans have offense. Because like the Titans have the same running game the Colts do, right? But they have a passing offense, like a legit, like solid passing offense. And I think they're actually better coached than the Colts. Like we always, Frank Reich is great at times, but I mean, that collapse kind of that you got to put that on him too. I mean, you can't just put it on Carson Wentz. It was a team-wide collapse last year. So I think the Titans,
the Jags could also surprise too.
But that's my point. Bet the Colts not to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's Colts versus Titans. Yeah, if there's a third team, it's gravy. Yeah. So that, I mean, it's not amazing. It's just plus 135, but at least, unlike these win totals where you pretty much have to weigh juice no matter what on each side on most of them, plus 135 not to make the playoffs. It's a loaded AFC. So like there's even a chance that the Colts are like a 9-10 win team and they
win
still
the division.
Don't
Yeah.
so,
I agree.
I mean, it's
if the Titans get to 11 wins,
right.
Then
Colts could be the eighth team,
win
8th
10,
best
they
team.
Don't get in.
Yeah. So, and that was, it was kind of trending that direction last year. They were in a fight to the end, as a winning team, above 500 team to kind of get in there, and they didn't. So, that's the bet I like with the Colts. I think the under 9.5 is fair as well. It's just not as sexy. All right, let's go to the AFC West and finish it off here. This is gonna be a fun one. Got KC at 10.5. Wait, so did they finally go under their win total last year, or did they?
They pushed. I think they pushed.
But it depends. Some books had
12.5. Yeah,
then you lost it.
We'll
give Reed the push.
Over.
We can't give.
I recorded like because I do, the implied. So like if it's over 12 minus like 120, it's like 12.2. So I had 12.2. So I rounded it down to 12. So I gave him a push, and I will give Reed the push. So yeah, he's they went 12-5 last year. Win total now this year though, because of how good this division is and because of how good the AFC is, down to 10.5.
Yeah, Chargers at 10, Broncos at 10, Raiders 8.5. I mean,
loaded. Let's
start with the Chiefs, just because I think all these other teams are even more interesting this year. Because it's just because of the moves they made, or Chargers case, the moves they made as well. But what are your thoughts on the Chiefs? Like, is it fair to knock them down to this for losing Tyreek Hill, and because kind of now they're entering into a gauntlet of a division? Is 10.5 too high? Is it too low? We know Andy Reid doesn't lose these things.
Look, I said I'm going to be betting the Chiefs under. I know it. I thought it was gonna be like at 12. Maybe I think it might have opened at 12. because you lose Tyreek Hill. Look, the amount of money they gave to Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have to make sacrifices otherwise. You lose Ward, you lose Hughes, you lose Pringle. I mean, who do you bring in? Like
MBS.
Schuster,
and
Scantling, you bring Jermaine Carter at linebacker, Justin Reed at safety for Honey Badger. That's the downgrade. Melvin Ingram is free agent. It was helpful. The defense is going to stink. The defensive line is bad. The cornerback situation is bad. Linebacker situation is bad. The defense is going to be really bad. And then you lose Tyreek Hill, and teams have started to figure out the offense a little bit more than they had. We've seen the Chiefs kind of punch back, but then we saw in the second half completely implode against the Bengals when they simply just dropped 8. So I was like, I'm definitely going to be the Chiefs under here. I'm going to be lower than the market, and I am, but I made it like 10-3. So sadly, if the total was at like 12, I definitely would have went under. Now, a lot of that also is because the Chargers are better. The Broncos are much better, and the Raiders are better. And those are teams you play 6 times. And the AFC as a whole is better. So it's not all just like I dropped the Chiefs like 2 wins. A lot of it has to do with who they're playing. So I think that they got a little worse. Still one of the best teams in the AFC, but their division is loaded. The conference is loaded. And they finished in first place last year. So first place schedule. I can't wait to bet them against the Bengals, though. Have that spot circled already. They do have 2 day 1 picks. So we'll see what they can do with those. Hopefully they don't draft the running back as they did previously. But 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. Plus 160 to win the division. No thanks. I want nothing to do with the Chiefs. I love some of the moves that the Chargers made, right? Getting J.C. Jackson, Gerald Everett, Joseph Day. You got Khalil Mack. It's a little over the hill, but look, you're going after it now. You lose Bulaga, so you got questions at right tackle. You don't want to see Storm Norton out there again. So you need a right tackle. You need a little bit of help at corner, maybe receiver. But they improved. And you think that Herbert's going to take another step forward from everything that I've seen. Win total over 10 minus 120. I make them, so it's like 10-2. I make them like 9-9. So nothing there for me. Super Bowl 16-1. It's like, probably need a little more than that. Because I don't know if they're going to get out of the division. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. They could win 10 games and miss the playoffs. Then you got the Broncos, who, their win total over 10 minus 125. Almost the same exact thing as the Chargers. They're 16 to win the Super Bowl. Almost the same as the Chargers. I have them powered to the same exact, to the 10th, to the 100th, that the Chargers and the Broncos actually equal. Broncos with their schedule, I project at 10.1. And their implied win total is like over 10 minus 120, is like 10.2. So no value there, but love what they did. You added Russ, right? Russ for Drew Lock. Big upgrade. I like some of the other, getting Randy Gregory. I think their defense, which has had a lot of injuries. I think that as long as they can just figure out the other corner spot. I mean, I think Ronald Darby is projected to start on the other side of Surtain. They get another corner out there because you got Kareem Jackson back. You got one of the best safeties in the NFL already in Simmons. Defense is dangerous. You got Russ. You got the weapons who are going to be back healthy. Denver's dangerous as well. And then the Raiders, who I think they got a lot better. I love some of the additions that they made. I actually think Harmon can come in and do some things at safety. I still think he's extremely underrated. You bring in Chandler Jones, and I like some of the guys they got rid of. And then obviously you bring in one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the NFL. So you basically replace Zay Jones, your boy, with Devontae Adams, which is just massive. So their offensive line still needs a little help. Defensive line, but replacing Ngakoue, Chandler Jones, on the other side of Crosby, that's going to make their defensive backs better. Now I think they still need the corners are a little scary. It's like Rock Ya-Sin and Mullen are projected as starting corners, so I want to see them maybe address that. But they're 35 to win the Super Bowl. Win total 8.5. I actually project them at 8.9. Not a ton of value. But look, maybe the move here, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this is what I've been setting up, because this is just a loaded division. KC plus 160 to win the division. Denver plus 250. Chargers plus 250. Vegas plus 600. I don't think that they're that far away. And are all these teams just going to eat each other up, where it's like they're all around 9 to 11 wins. It comes down to a couple bounces here, and I get 6-1 on the Raiders to win the division. and Carr Magic. I think they improved their roster. That's where I'm leaning as a division shot is potentially the Raiders at 6-1. Curious to get your thoughts on the absolutely loaded AFC West.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of it. I like the Raiders at 6-1 as well, because I do think this is a lot closer. I think if you're of the opinion that it's really more of a 3-team race still with the Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Chargers, I love what the Chargers did. However, the Broncos finishing in last place gives them a game against like the Jets, whereas the Chargers get Miami, and that right there, they're both at 10 wins, right? They're both pretty much equal to win the division. That could be the difference. The schedules are very similar, but the Broncos with that last place schedule, just get a couple of different opponents, and I think that might make a difference there. So same thing happened with
the Ravens Browns. Ravens losing that game last game of the year, got last place. Browns got third. Same thing.
So I mean, I really like the Chargers and I really like the Broncos. I think the Chiefs. I think you kind of want to fade the Chiefs. I mean, just based on what we've seen, the cracks were kind of showing in the Chiefs this last year already. Like we pointed it out, they were overrated, and it seemed like they didn't really ever fix what teams were doing against it. They kind of adjusted a little bit, but really it was just that they played like the Steelers and the teams that they normally just beat up on anyway, because they match up well. And then it was like when they played teams that they didn't match up well with, it didn't work out. And now, because the Raiders are better, the Broncos are better, the Chargers are better. Now you're talking about 6 games a year against teams they may not match up well with. Like, you may look at these
and you don't have to play. You don't have to play all the numbers. Like half the numbers that Mahomes put up were against the Raiders. Yeah, because Gus Bradley wouldn't change his defense. And by the way, Gus Bradley's in Indianapolis now. We didn't even mention that. It's not going to be a problem. But now the Raiders, they're not just. I don't think they might not be completely helpless and give up 50 to the Chiefs. Yeah, I assume that they're going to make some of that just sitting the old cover threes that Mahomes has figured out. So that could be something else that worked their advantage as well, because they just got buried by the Chiefs twice last year.
Yeah, I agree. So like that's kind of how I like the Raiders as a long shot within the division. Yeah. And then I like, if you're just talking about the division itself, fade the Chiefs. Broncos are my favorite because I think Russ, like that, I think that was his floor last year. I think there's a great roster around him, and the Chargers just made really good moves and their quarterback's upside is through the roof, and he's, it's like, these two teams, they could be the 2 best teams in the AFC. If the Bills stumble, these could be the 2 best teams in the AFC, Chargers and Broncos. So I think you have to fade the Chiefs. If you're just picking between the Chargers and Broncos, I lean Broncos only because they got that extra game against the Jets where the Chargers play Miami. But that's the only reason. Like, I think like there's going to be a chance at some point where you can bet like exact division finishes. I'm sure the Chiefs to finish last are going to be like ridiculously long odds. And even if the Chiefs to finish third would be probably pretty long odds, I would definitely look at both of those because I think the Chargers and Broncos are better than the Chiefs right now. And I think that with the Raiders, there's just not as much of a disparity as people think between the Raiders and the Chiefs. And their 2 games, which usually go the Chiefs' way, could go either way, which could really swing things. So, but I love the J.C. Jackson move for the Chargers because they're like their pass defense. They have that.
And I love Samuel too because I love Sam.
He's going to be better too. You would think he gets better, but I mean Jackson is so crucial just because the turnovers, the coverage, all that stuff. He can play man, but the Chargers' whole scheme last year, we talked about this a ton on the show, was that they're gonna protect deep. They're gonna concede the run, right? So they were one of the worst teams against the run, but they were also below average DVOA against the pass. So like, they couldn't. That's just not feasible in this conference and even in this division. And now I think they're gonna be that above average, that top 10 pass defense this year. And they obviously have the offense. They have one of the best running backs in the game, weapons period, in Eckler. Allen, one of the best receivers that can get open. Herbert, one of the best deep ball best quarterbacks, period. Mike Williams, one of the better deep ball receivers. I mean, there's just so much talent there. The Broncos have,
do they have a kicker yet? Do the Chargers have a kicker yet?
Do they have a kicker? I don't know. I could not tell you who the Chargers kicker is right now. Let me see.
Well, they had that kid that they signed from who was awful in college. They finally cut him at the end of the year. Then they got Dustin Hopkins.
Oh, they got Hopkins. So
I assume he's still their kicker.
He's average.
He's way better than what they've had.
Yeah.
But the AFC is insane. Ready? No one would be surprised if any of these teams made the playoffs. Patriots, Bills, Dolphins, Titans, Colts, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers. 7 spots, those 12 teams. I mean, some depending on what their division they're in, but that's insane. Yeah. You on the NFC in the list, you'd be like, all right, I got like 6.
Yeah, it's like I guess the Cowboys, like,
and then you're going, then you're going to like, all right, maybe Eagles or Giants or So yeah, the AFC is absolutely loaded. It's going to be a blast, and then the playoffs are going to be amazing. And then like a full season of Watson makes the Browns even more dangerous. Like it's the AFC, it's going to be a blast. So I think to wrap up, I would say my favorite win totals, Jets as always, Jets under. Maybe that'll change sometime, Jets fans. But my favorite win totals, Jets and Steelers unders. Division, maybe if you want to get a little crazy, Jags, Raiders would be my favorite division future. And then Super Bowl future, Ravens. As I said in the Super Bowl, 30-1 was great. I still like it at where it is now.
Yeah, my favorite, Colts to miss the playoffs at plus 135. Colts win total under 9.5. Love the Ravens long shots at Super Bowl, division, Super Bowl, and conference. I think the Ravens make a lot of sense. And then in the AFC West, under on the Chiefs, Raiders long shot division. And then if you're choosing between the Broncos or the Chargers, I think the Broncos are one tiny little sliver more likely to go over, their win total of 10 because they have this game against the Jets, whereas the Chargers have it against Miami. And both of those are at home, by the way. So loaded AFC West, interesting conference. Love it. Great analysis, Stuck. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Remember, our NFC win totals episode is also out right now. Go check that out. actionnetwork.com for all of our betting content across all sports, all of our NFL draft content. Download the free award-winning Action Network app where you can follow Stuck and I's bets and track yours. You can find Stuckey on the app at Stuckey2 and me at Chris Raybon, Raybon. And you can also find us at those same handles on Twitter. Be sure, if you like the podcast, to leave us a 5-star on Apple or Spotify. And we'll be back. Until next time, let's get this money.